Ugh. You ever feel so guilty and you feel bad for your kids because of the fact that they're growing up with a single mom? This episode is going to change your mind about that, girl. We are going to erase that guilt. Don't you think? How do we just kick this out of our lives? I don't want it in my life anymore.
Feeling guilty or ashamed of anything is already, to take single motherhood out of it, just the feeling of guilt is such a heavy, gross, thick feeling. Mm-hmm. And the reality is what do we have to be guilty about? What do we have to be ashamed of? And I think that's the big thing to ask ourselves, because it's no secret that single motherhood comes with an abundance of guilt. I've never met a single mom who doesn't feel guilty for something or maybe even ashamed of something.
Well, let me also level the playing field here, though. I've never met a mom.
Oh, a mom.
Who doesn't
mom guilt is real.
So it's not like you're special.
Yeah.
Or you have it worse. Really, when you think about it, when it comes to the guilt. So in this episode, we've got some encouragement and some ideas for you on just how to release that single mom guilt and feel empowered and really happy that, in a way, hey, you get to be a single mom. Your kids get to grow up with a single mom to learn resilience and independence and strength. Instead of looking this like your victim, this episode is going to help you look at this like maybe it's really just an opportunity.
Yeah. And your kids also get to grow up to see you happy. Right? I don't know.
Hesitated when you happy.
Yeah, because I can't speak for everybody, but I know that what was hard for me was my marriage.
Oh, God.
That was what was hard for me. That was miserable. I would have felt more guilty letting them grow up to see me in this miserable state of mind for their entire lives than to walk away from that, take on single motherhood, and then they get to see me flourish, strong, and happy
and independent. And we're not knocking marriage.
No,
we're not knocking marriage
or relationships.
Right,
just the right ones. We're knocking the wrong ones.
Thank you. You took the words out of my mouth. If you're in a situation that's making you miserable, why are you staying in that situation? There's absolutely no reason not to work on it.
Yeah.
Or if you can't work on it, figure out a way to get out of it.
Absolutely.
Why waste your life? In my opinion.
in our humble opinion.
Well, because I think a lot of us, grew up during a time when people used the phrase broken home with a single mom, or it was a normal phrase, almost a legal phrase that, that kid has a broken home.
Yeah.
I don't think a single parent led home is a broken home.
No, it's so whole. I think when we hear that term and whenever we attach something to our identity, it becomes part of who we are. So if we hear this term, broken home, we hear people say, oh, it's so hard to be a single mom. Oh, those kids come from a broken home. And now we know we're a single parent and we take these terms and we attach them to this life that we're living. Well, now it becomes our reality, and we almost feel bad for it, even if that's not actually how we felt in the beginning. Because if you take a step back and look at your family, what's broken about it?
Yeah.
Right? What's broken about it? Outside of social norms, the atomic family, what's broken about you and your children rocking this life together as a team?
Is it a social norm, though?
Once upon a time, maybe.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's almost 50% of relationships end in divorce.
Yep.
And then you think about how many, the fastest growing demographic of household makeups in America is the single parent led home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
there's more and more every single year. So in a way, you don't have to be broken. I think the brokenness comes from our mindset about it. The brokenness can come from staying in an abusive marriage. I was a broken woman when I was staying in an abusive marriage because I didn't have a way out. I was financially dependent. And then I feel there's a lot of brokenness when you're allowing someone to cheat on you and be unfaithful and you know it hurts you, but you stay.
There's a lot of brokenness when you allow somebody to be unkind.
Yeah.
Or just, mean to
Disrespectful.
you. Disrespectful, controlling, possessive. That breaks us. And so going into single motherhood, to your point, I think, we maybe go in feeling a little broken, but that's completely normal because now, as a single mom, you get to find this new normal with you and your kids and healed and whole of you as you've ever been.
So how do you start to erase that feeling of brokenness? Because somebody might be listening right now is like, but Sarah and Amanda, like, I feel broken. I still feel broken. Like, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
But like, because I know you're really good at mindset shifts and convincing yourself that you're going to do something else.
So I think first is having the awareness and being able to identify it. There's a lot of shame and guilt that come from being a single mom. And that also comes into this guilt for the way we feel. Sometimes we feel ashamed that we feel broken. And so we don't want to acknowledge that that's how we feel. We want to just pretend we don't feel that way and everything's fine, but then we cry in the shower, right? Or in the car or can't
so the
sleep
kids
at
don't
night.
see.
Yeah. And so I think first and foremost is acknowledging I'm broken. I feel broken. And that's not something to be ashamed of. Of course I feel broken. Look at where I came from and have compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
Once you acknowledge that, then it's a matter of like, okay, well, how do I not feel this way anymore? Yeah. How do I heal these broken parts of me? And what I did is I really leaned into my team. I left my ex-husband feeling every way that I had every aforementioned way. And it was me and my kids. And after identifying and having this awareness of feeling broken, I said, okay, this is my team.
Yeah.
They are not a burden in my life. They're not the stressor in my life. They're not the nuisance in my life or the hardship in my life. They're my team. And if we can rise up together, then we can rise up. And I allowed the love to heal us all. And so, when we get stressed out, sometimes we get edgy when it comes to like kids making noise in the house, or maybe they're talking back, or maybe they're slamming doors, or maybe I had to have as much compassion for them as I had for myself.
Yeah.
And allow them to feel the grief of the shift in their family dynamic as I had to feel in myself. And instead of allowing their feelings to make me feel guilty for having caused this shift in the family dynamic, I let us be in them together. And I let us heal from them together. And I affirmed this is different. And it's okay to be sad. Yeah. And it's okay to be angry. And when we healed together, they're my best friends.
I love that. I think one way to stop feeling single mom guilt is to realize that, yes, in a way there was a death of the original unit of the family, but there's also a rebirth. So instead of focusing on the death, then you focus on the rebirth. What I did, my kids were really young, I came up with like a name for us, like we were a band. I called us Mama and the Sunshines. I still call my 3 kids my Sunshines because like that song I sang to them when they were little, You Make Me Happy When Skies Are Gray. It's kind of like needing your kids to make you happy. The lyrics aren't the best, but you know what I'm going for here, okay? So I was like, Mama and the Sunshines. And I even refer to them, they refer to themselves now as teenagers still as the Sunshines. Like they know that that's their name. Like they're the accompaniment to the lead singer. And they even would tag social media posts, Mama and the Sunshines adventure today. But it almost like gave us a positive brand.
Yeah.
Rather, like, come up with a band name for you and your kids. Like, it's like a mental hack. Because instead of something's missing, we're broken, create a new birth of like a new family name that's Mom and the Sunshines. Steal my name if you want to steal the name. I would love for you to steal the name. We can all have our own little family picture band cover art photos.
I love it.
Of Mama and the Sunshines. Be like, nope, rebranding. We're good. We're going to move on and we're going to go hiking and we're going to go skiing and we're going to go on vacations. We're going to do all the stuff that other guy didn't want to do because he was home playing video games. So guess what? We're going to go live life.
Yeah.
That's what we did. So that's another way to banish single mom guilt. Now let's go to another form of single mom guilt. So that's the big overarching one, that we have guilt just because we are. So let's erase that, because you're strong, powerful, resilient, and you can be an incredible example to your children, something that other children don't have.
Yeah, and I think something to add to that that's really important to remember is, and it kind of touches on something I had said earlier, so we have guilt for the way our children feel. And I think it's really important to remember that while it's important for as a family unit to be there and compassion for each other when we're grieving the loss of the change of the shift in the family dynamic, this isn't the first or last time your kids are going to have feelings. and especially if you have young kids and they're going to become teenagers, and there's so many feelings.
Yeah.
And I think that like right now, I hope you can give yourself permission, and I invite you to let go of taking responsibility for their feelings. They're humans and they're allowed to have feelings, and they're going to have a whole range of feelings just like you do. And it's not your job to take on the guilt for if they feel sad or angry or grief, or, you know, as you first become a single mom or through single motherhood, if they struggle with the shift in the dynamic and they're experiencing these emotions that we have as a society deemed as negative.
Right. No.
Let them have them. Guess what? That's not on you.
Yeah.
They're not mad at you for it. They have these emotions. And if the sooner you can decide that those are not yours to take on, and instead they're think of your best friend. If your best friend was sad, angry, or upset about something, would you feel guilty about that? Probably not, right?
No.
But would you be there to give her a hug? To tell her, like, girl, I know it's hard right now, but things are going to get better.
Yeah.
And things are going to be great. Talk to your kids like that instead of taking on the guilt for their emotions.
To acknowledge them. To acknowledge the emotions, not say you shouldn't feel that way.
Correct. Yeah.
I heard a good phrase the other day from this parenting coach. I follow, the family coach. And he said a good term to use when children are experiencing like emotions about something serious is to say, oh man, tell me more.
Yeah.
Because you're not negating. And you're not just saying, oh, that's a bummer, like you don't want to hear anything more.
Yeah.
You're like, tell me more about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to let them get it out.
And sometimes they don't know what to say. And so also asking for more so they can get it out and off their chest, but also giving them permission to feel that way. Like making sure they don't feel like they're not. Yeah. It's okay to be mad.
Yeah.
You can be mad. You're allowed to be mad. If you need to cry, you can cry. I can't tell you how many times, my daughter especially, she doesn't like to wear her emotions on her sleeves. She likes to keep them in. And then you could see the tears well up in her eyes, and she's trying so hard to fight them back. And I can see it happening. And I'll tell her, you're allowed to cry. It's okay to cry. And as soon as I give her permission, it's waterworks.
Yep.
And guess what? That's okay. Even if she's crying because of something that she deems my fault, or I did, or I won't let her go somewhere, or I won't let her do something, or whatever. Like, it's okay to cry. Disappointment's a real feeling, and you're allowed to feel that. And she'll cry. And I'll be there for her when she does, instead of feeling guilty that she's crying because of me.
It's like having that special, when you have that emotional connection with your kids, it helps kind of like, you're not feeling guilty for them feeling bad. You're helping. You're feeling like, okay, no, I got this. I'm going to help. So we have the deep-seated emotion of guilt because you're a single mom. Let's talk about the practical day-to-day dumb stuff we do because we're experiencing single mom guilt, so we can stop it, because we need to stop.
You mean like volunteering for every school function with all of our spare time?
So nobody knows that, overcompensating a little bit. Oh, I can do just as much as the stay-at-home moms that have Yeah,
So
I've done it. I don't do it anymore, by the way. I'm just letting you know right now. I would like to let you know that you have permission to say no to being the team mom. You have permission for saying no to being the room mom. You have permission for saying no, not to have to bring in cupcakes for Teacher Appreciation Day.
And guess what? If you do bring in cupcakes, you have permission to buy them from Costco.
Yes, and just drop them off on your way to work, okay? Here's the deal. Nobody cares.
No.
We think so much that people are looking at us to think about what we do. Really, they don't care. Most people are so wrapped up in their own junk of what they're dealing with that they do not have any time to pay attention on what you're volunteering for or what you're not volunteering for.
Yeah, one thing that I did early on in single motherhood, I've been a single mom for 10 years, as I mentioned in a previous episode, so is look at my entire life as a whole. Take a step back, take 3 steps back. Look at it as if you're watching it on a movie. And I really looked at it as like, in order to be the best mom I possibly can be, what needs to exist? And that, like, there were some things that needed to exist, and it was like, obviously I need to have a job and be able to create income, and I needed to have companionship and partnership and teamwork with my kids, but also it was like, how much time, in order to show up for them and work, how much additional time do I really have? None. And so one of the things I think single parents really feel guilty for is that their kids can't play every sport. Because I have 3 kids and they're all in different sports and there's practice on different nights of the week or the same nights of the week at the same times in the games, and how do we can't be in 5 places at once. I excused myself from being a sports mom very early on. And sometimes I look at their life and I'm like, my kids don't play sports. Well, I could feel guilty about that, or I could look at it and say, but what do they do? My daughter's an incredible artist. My son is an incredible dancer. They do other things, They don't have to play sports. It's not a rite of passage.
Right.
So
I am the sports mom. So we're double. And I realized I had to find balance. So I felt like I was always driving in my car. And I had a morning radio show, so I was done early for the day. So I had the time, because I'd get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, go do a show, and I'd be home and I'd take a nap and I'd be there with the kids after school, and then all I would do is drive them to sports. And I gave up the need to have a very clean house. I gave up the need to have a super clean kitchen. I gave up the need to always have laundry done and to do it all myself. I gave up that. And I also gave up the need to, I made the mistake one time of signing up to be team mom for my son's baseball team. It was one of those meetings, nobody was signing up, nobody was saying anything, and I felt like the silence guilt, like nobody's raising their hand, and I'm like, okay. I ended up sitting on the board of directors for our Rockland Little League. I had no business signing up for that. I was the worst member of the board because I was always letting people down. So here's a reason why you should say no to those opportunities when you're an overwhelmed, stressed out single mom, is because it's going to be worse because you're going to feel guilty because you're not doing a good job. And we don't need one more thing to not do a good job at. Look at your life. A friend of mine says, have I done the charcuterie board analogy on this podcast?
I can't remember.
My charcuterie board? So forgive me if I've repeated, but like the single mom life is like a charcuterie board. A really nice one. You have lots of different things. Lots of different cheeses, different types of crackers, maybe some nuts. We do have some nuts around. But when you get a really nice charcuterie board, one of the problems is if they put too much on it and it's loaded, like stuff falls off, right? And it's not as good and it's not as quality.
Yeah.
Because you end up loading it up with a bunch of junk. Your life isn't going to be as quality as you want if you're loading it up with a bunch of stuff that you think you should say yes to, and you're going to be unhappy. So if you say, no, I'm going to limit it to just 2 types of cheeses
Yeah.
and a couple different crackers, and this is what my family's going to do. So my son is very athletic. Like, I can't stop him from playing sports, And so I was like, okay, well, our family on weekends, I sit at games. I do sports, and we don't really do other things, but that's what we do as a family. And the other stuff can wait until they're grown up. So just think about what you're choosing to put on your charcuterie board. Choose the quality, not the quantity, and you'll have a happier, more fulfilling life.
Yeah, and I think if you're reflecting on your own life listening to this and you find yourself feeling like, gosh, but I am so overwhelmed and stressed out.
I know.
Well, then odds are, like, your charcuterie board is probably overflowed.
Yeah.
And so then, that's your invitation to say, okay, well I'm stressed out and overwhelmed because I've taken on too much. What can shift? And that where there is a will, there's a way. I promise you that. There is I can't tell you how many single parents or how many moms I've talked to that feel like there's so many non-negotiables. Well, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. See, there's no more time left. The reality is you don't have to do anything. And so you can, don't limit what your charcuterie board could look like based on what you feel obligated to do. Instead, what would be ideal, and work backwards from there. And then don't, when you take on too much, this happens. Tell me you know somebody who's done this. We start resenting motherhood.
Oh, God.
We're overwhelmed, and we start resenting being a mom. We start, just these kids, go to your room and leave me alone, and I just need my space, and these kids. And we start resenting that. But the reality is, as a single parent, that you're a team. And if we are resenting them, you are not operating at the level in which your team could operate.
Yeah.
And one of the things... Okay, so one of the things to make sure that this never ever happened in my house was I said, okay, I'm overwhelmed because I'm taking on every single responsibility in this house. I'm in charge of everything and everyone.
Yeah, no.
I'm in charge of all the driving and all the bills and all the working. Yes. But I'm also in charge of every chore and every organizational task and everybody's schedule.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'm not in charge of everybody anymore.
You fired yourself.
I fired myself. I said, okay, from now on, I'm teaching my children how to be in charge of themselves. And in doing this, you guys, my kids, they were probably 4 when I started doing this.
Yeah.
My kids, if they don't do their own laundry, they don't have clean clothes. They've made their own lunches for school since they were in preschool. I'm sorry, you're 4, but you can slap some lunch meat on a piece of bread.
Yep.
And their rooms were clean. They've been doing dishes and chores since they were in preschool. They manage their own schedules. They make their own doctor's appointments. They tell me where I need to be.
She did better than I did on that.
You guys, to the extent that I have my Amazon account on both of their devices. And if you need something, order it. I'm the one that's going to have to buy it anyway.
Put it in the cart. Yeah, we do that too.
I don't even want, put it in the cart. You need socks, okay?
Yeah.
Put the socks in the cart.
I don't know that you need new underwear.
I don't know.
I can't, because you're doing your own laundry. I love that.
I give yourself permission to fire yourself, because here's the thing it's going to do. 1, you're free.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden are not in charge of every responsibility on the face of the earth. But 2, you are building this level of confidence and independence in your children that's going to carry with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
They're competent, capable, independent, and confident because you've given them responsibility.
And you're preparing them to be a better partner for someone. Yeah, they may not see their mom or their dad with a partner, but you know what they do see is they see themselves being a partner with their single mom. And they're learning what it's like. Like my son is learning what it's like, I feel like, to be a husband by being my son. He's not necessarily learning what it's like to be a husband from a dad in the house, but he's learning responsibilities.
Yeah.
Because I always say, this is probably, I don't know if this is healthy or unhealthy. I always say in a joking way, I'll say something like, he'll take out the trash and not, put the bag in. And I'm like, listen, I want your wife to actually think that I did a good job so that I can see my grandkids. So could you, because I want her to like let me be around. So he's like, Mom, seriously. I'm like, well, I say it in a joking way, but I'm always trying to look for ways to teach them to be a good partner.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you're not like Sarah and you're more like me and you didn't fire yourself very early on, I have regular like family meetings, Mama and the Sunshine meetings.
Yes,
when I'm noticing that we're needing, I was like, okay, Mom and the Sunshine meeting. And then I always have to say, nobody's in trouble.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, oh, I was like, nobody's in trouble. And I'll have like a pizza and we'll sit down and be like, okay, so I'm feeling real overwhelmed. And so what I did is I wrote down some things that I needed them to do. Things that were like, I need you to like throw the popcorn wrappers away when you make popcorn. And like, I need you to help pick up after yourself, and I need somebody to do the bathrooms, and I need somebody to mop once a week, and who's going to take what? And, because I didn't start it.
Makes the dream work.
Yeah, I didn't start it early on enough. Yeah. And so, because I had money then, and I was able to get a house cleaner. It was terrible example to my kids. So then they eventually, we figured it out, and we're kind of in more of a routine.
Yeah.
But I have to have regular reminders.
Yeah.
Of them. And your kids will wear dirty clothes to school one day because they didn't do their laundry, and you cannot have single mom guilt about that.
That is their consequence to pay.
You cannot think that anyone is blaming you. Oh, that's the kid with the single mom. That's why he's got dirty clothes. Mm-hmm. No. Who cares?
Nope. They will wash their clothes. I promise you, they will go to school enough times of not having anything to wear before they're like, I cannot make that mistake again.
Right.
And they will just start doing their laundry and better. And the other thing that this does by like giving them this like ultimate independence, right, is it allows them, it gives them space to fail. I always say I give my kids all the rope to hang themselves with. because if the first time, as a mom, a mom in general, but a single mom levels it up, we feel guilt. And so, in order to not feel guilt, we want to remove as much responsibility from their childhood as they possibly can, but we're doing them a disservice when we do that. We really are, because we don't leave them any space for autonomy in their own life. If we want our children to grow up to be critical thinkers, to grow up to make good choices, to grow up to know how to fail and how to learn from their failures and how to succeed from a failure, well, we have to let them do that. And we can't feel guilty when they fall flat on their face.
I admit to you.
We have to let them.
I'm feeling guilty right now because I just realized that I didn't make my kids lunch this morning. And usually I make it for them every single day, and I drop it off at school.
Yes.
When they're with their dads, when they're with their dad, it's their dad's week, and I just nicely just drop it off at school. And we're recording this podcast, and I didn't do it today. I'm going to choose that. I'm not going to text them to be like, hey, Mom didn't make your lunch today. I'm going to let them figure it out, right?
They're going to be fine.
Exactly. I need to do this.
Because if the first time we're letting our children figure out what to do when things don't go as planned is when they're 23.
Oh, God. Yeah, you're right.
Right? They've got a lot more to lose. But if we let them fail, if we let them kind of scramble to find the ground under their feet when things don't go the way that they expected them to when they're 8, when they're 10, when they're 15, well, that's safe. They've got a lot less to lose. You're still there to keep them safe. Yeah. But back off and give them the autonomy to do it, and they become these really resilient, really competent people. And there's nothing to feel guilty. In fact, you should feel proud of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell a little story, and I'll make it quick. And I've told you this story before.
Okay, I'll pretend like it's the first time I've ever heard it.
My son was 5 years old, and he had a double knot in his shoe. And everybody was in a hurry. Yeah. We were rushing out the door. We needed to get out this door. And my daughter grabs his shoe, and she's like, give it to me, and I'll untie it. And I stopped, and I said, hand that shoe back to your brother. And she was like, okay, she's 8, he's 5. And she hands the shoe back to him, and I looked at him, and I said, son, you can untie this double knot. You can do this. And he is flustered. He's crying. He's panicky. No, I can't. And he's so mad at me. You're so mean. You won't let me. We're going to be late. And I was like, okay, guess what? Then we're late. It's okay. Tomorrow will come. If we're late. But you can do this. I promise. And we will sit here for as long as you need to. So if you need to be upset right now, be upset. Whenever you're ready to calm down and face the problem, it'll be there waiting for you. And so for about 5 minutes, he proceeded to throw a tantrum and tell me what a mean mommy I was for not untying this knot.
I would not have been able to do this. I'm impressed. I really am. I can't.
And so I told him, if you're crying right now because you think I'm going to change my mind and do this for you, I want you to know that I'm not. But if you're crying right now because you're frustrated and this is hard, I'm here for you. And then, it took him a second, but he realized nobody's coming to save him. Nobody is going to undo this knot for him. And so you can see the moment where it happens, and he chooses to calm down, and he addresses the knot.
Yeah.
And he starts working on it without freaking out, right? And he gets this knot untied. And the moment he gets this knot untied, his eyes get big and he literally lights up, you guys, lights up. And I'm cheering for him. I'm so proud of him. He's so proud. And he's wiping tears off of his face and he's so happy and proud of himself. And he comes and gives me a hug. And I said, do you feel this right now? Do you feel what you're feeling right now? And I said, do you feel how happy you are and how proud you are? He's like, yeah. And I said, if I would have untied that knot for you, I would have robbed you of that. Yeah. You never would have gotten to feel that feeling. And so sometimes we feel really guilty for letting our children struggle. And we want to save them from every struggle. But when we do, we rob them of that feeling of accomplishment, of having worked through the struggle. And so it's almost something to be proud of when you safely, lovingly let your children struggle.
And isn't that the overarching thing that we would love all single moms to hear? It is the struggle that gives the butterfly the ability to fly, the struggle out of the cocoon. If somebody comes along and opens up that cocoon, if a human being comes and says, oh, there's a cute little caterpillar or butterfly and opens it up, the butterfly's wings do not have the strength to fly. But it is these struggles that we allow our children to go through and that you're going through right now, that allowing yourself to go through, that if you play it right, it will give you the strength to fly, baby, fly. And so instead of living in constant single mom guilt and feeling like a victim, and I know maybe you are a victim, and I'm so sorry, but you don't have to have that as your identity. And instead, you start planning for your success. I'm focusing on planning for my abundance. Maybe I don't feel really abundant right now, but I'm planning for it and expecting it to happen. Wouldn't that be better than planning your failure? Than planning your lack?
Planning your stress, your overwhelm.
Because when you focus on all the things that you don't have and are missing from your life, you're never going to feel like you have enough. But when you focus on all the things that you do have right now, and you will have in your life,
and you can create,
you feel abundance, and you will. Your thoughts provoke your life. What you think about's going to happen, girl. So instead of thinking, oh, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, I'm so stressed out, I hate my life, this is not fair. That's your life.
Yeah. Well, and don't let other people make you feel that way. How many times has somebody come up to you and said, oh my God, you're a single mom. I admire you so much. That's so hard. With this sympathy almost. That happens to me all the time, and my response is always the same. I am a single mom, and it's awesome. It's great.
I love it.
It doesn't have to be as hard as we make it. And I think that you'll find when we invite you to let go of the guilt, to let go of the shame, to embrace the teamwork, that it feels a whole lot less heavy and a whole lot less hard. And you choose to not be a victim of single motherhood. When somebody comes up to you and says, oh my gosh, it's so hard. And you are like, yeah, it is. It's so hard. Thank you. Oh my God, it is so hard. You're saying, you recognize that I'm a victim, and I'm
I'm put that name tag on.
I'm going to wear that proud.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, yeah, I am a single mom, and it's awesome. You know,
I'm really proud of it.
I'm not. You're not a victim unless you choose to be. You can always choose to be the victor instead of the victim. And when you let go of guilt and shame, that's exactly what happens.
So do it today. Plan for your abundance. You can get out something in your journal. I think we're both journalers. I'm a huge fan. And just write down, what is your plan for your abundance? It doesn't have to be money. It's like, I have all this love in my life. I have all these friends in my life. I have a garden. I have these things. And I'm going to continue to work on it. And I want you to write down your list of abundance that you have now, and then your list of things that you will have and you will work on. And that's the only thing you think about. Never focus on what's missing. Only focus on what's there and what will become. We love you, single moms.